Writer-director Damien Leone has revealed more details about the controversial opening scene to Terrifier 3. He's compared it to other horror flicks, which gives me an idea of what's to come in this Christmas set slasher. Now let's get into it. Before we get into today's Terrifier 3 theory, I first want to thank the wonderful patrons that support this page. Without all of you, I wouldn't be able to upload to this spooky channel as frequently as I do. Please consider signing up for my Patreon by clicking on the link in the description below, or by pressing the join button on my page. Thank you all again, and now let's get into the theory. Yesterday, Damien Leone posted a tweet discussing Terrifier 3's opening scene. In the past, he's talked about how this opening scene is going to be shocking, calling it controversial, and listing it as the main reason why he could never pitch the new installment of Terrifier to a big studio. After the teaser trailer that released this past November, many fans have speculated that Art the Clown would be going after children in the new flick who are expecting presents on Christmas morning. But instead, they will receive blood. This has turned some fans away from the franchise, but anyone who has seen All Hallows Eve knows this isn't the first time Art has butchered this age demographic. The tweet from Leone yesterday read, "If you're a fan of the intros to Scream and When a Stranger Calls, I promise you're gonna absolutely love the opening scene of Terrifier 3. Most of you probably know the opening scene of Scream that features Drew Barrymore as Casey Becker receiving increasingly creepy phone calls from a smooth-talking stranger. This leads to a deadly game of horror movie trivia, and after a little cat and mouse chase, young Casey gets slashed. It's a similar situation in 1979's When a Stranger Calls that features something even scarier. Babysitter Jill Johnson receives a call from a stranger asking if she's checked on the children. She first disregards this as a prank until the stranger continues to call her, even making a threat or two. She calls the police, who later drop a bombshell on us that the killer is calling from inside the house. Oh my god, that might have been ripped right from 1974's Black Christmas, but it's the other part of this opening scene that is so haunting. Jill escapes by the skin of her teeth as the cops reprimand the killer. They discover that the children upstairs have been slaughtered and send the culprit to a psychiatric facility. Black Christmas, When a Stranger Calls, and Scream are all massively influential horror films that, as you can see from Damien's most recent tweet here, still continue to influence pop culture today. Considering the grotesque and in-your-face nature of the Terrifier franchise, I'm guessing that Damien is hinting at actually showing us the death of a child right at the beginning of Terrifier 3. As you might recall, it's done off screen in When a Stranger Calls. This could also be considered as an homage to the ending of All Hallows Eve that features a very similar series of events. The Scream connection makes me think that a phone call will be involved too, but of course, Art the Clown doesn't necessarily speak. Hell, I'm not sure that we've even heard the guy make a sound before, nary a grunt. We did, however, see a scene in Terrifier 2 where the little pale girl tricked Sienna into showing up at the carnival. She has the ability to make her voice sound like other people specifically, as she mimicked Jonathan perfectly. Maybe we see a babysitter or even a child's parents get lured out of a house via phone call, leaving the rest of the family susceptible to Art the Clown, who is already inside the house. Have you heard that little song and dance before? It would explain this attic-looking setting Art the Clown appears to be at here. Once again, Black Christmas, baby. I know some folks are turned away by the thought of Art ripping a child to pieces, but I think the point of Terrifier has always been to test limits. A lot of horror films that push the envelope further than where other films before it dared to fly tend to stand out. Besides, one of the most successful horror flicks of all time begins with an alien sewer clown biting off the arm of a little boy in a raincoat. We all loved when that clown did it, so what's wrong with this? What do you guys got against Art that you don't have against Pennywise? Come on now. While the kill and phone call might feel obvious, I feel like there's more to it than just that. As you might recall from Terrifier 2, the sequel picked up right where the first one left off. Art the Clown has been resurrected by the little pale girl and continues his killing spree through Miles County. With confirmation that Chris Jericho will be back in the sequel, that has me wondering if Terrifier 3 won't pick up right where we left off last time. But maybe we'll see Art the Clown return to the psychiatric facility during the events of Terrifier 3. This time against his will. Very similar to When a Stranger Calls. Terrifier 2 left us on Halloween night at the Miles County Psychiatric Facility, and this flick will clearly feature a time jump as Jonathan is in college, as we learned via the casting call from earlier this year. It's also set during Christmas, where we will hopefully see Art the Clown kill in the snow. Fingers crossed. This makes me think that the opening of Terrifier 3 will be a few days after the events of the sequel. A family is torn apart by Art the Clown, and the cops finally corner the madman that they've been going after for years now. It It makes me think of that scene from Halloween Kills where Michael is cornered by the police and Dr. Loomis is screaming, "Has Michael killed again?" Art is taken back to the bowels of this facility where Chris Jericho still happens to work. After some catch-up and exposition with our characters from the previous film, we could cut back to Art and see his escape. Remember, he has a supernatural, possibly demonic entity on his side, so I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled a The Shining here and had the little pale girl let him out of his cell randomly. Art corrects the guards at the facility and escapes, possibly taking Vicky with him too if she survived birthing out his head. Heck, maybe she's part of the escape plan too. With the way Damien has discussed the opening scene publicly so many times now, I just don't think we're going to start this flick in the same manner as the previous entry. While I would love that, it makes more sense to see Art locked away during the time jump. Otherwise, why wouldn't he just go after Sienna and Jonathan in the meantime? It could lend itself to some vulnerable scenes with the character out of costume where we could potentially learn more about him. He could have some scary prison grease paint on, wearing one of those big orange jumpsuits too. That might be a scary new look for him. I'm imagining as he kills his way out, he discovers his old costume and puts it back on. He will surely change again in this flick as he skins off a mall Santa's face and steals his big red suit. Art is gonna be a fashionista in this flick. Work it, girl! I also want to take the rest of this video to correct my last theory. Last time we talked about Terrifier 3 was when another tweet came out from Damien talking about how a scene in Terrifier 3 will be Scarface meets Psycho. A lot of you pointed out that there is a shower scene in Scarface that I totally forgot about. My mind went immediately to that scene of Art using a machine gun to eviscerate the patrons of the Clown Cafe during the last film, which in turn made me think of the most iconic scene from Scarface, "Say hello to my little friend" and all that. Come on now. I think Damien was actually referring to the chainsaw shower sequence in Scarface that is, again, done mostly off-screen, just like Psycho. I think this time around, though, we will actually get to see Cole and Mia get chopped up into little bits in the shower together after Art takes a very effective note from his friend Leatherface. We could possibly even get a shot of blood going down the drain, but instead of chocolate sauce, it's cherry red, baby. I know a lot of what I'm saying sounds very pastiche, but I feel like that's not too far out of the realm of Terrifier. I mean, going all the way back to All Hallows Eve, like I said earlier, the plot of that film is pretty much When a Stranger Calls, but much more in your face about it. I personally don't mind that about this franchise, as long as it finds its own unique voice. In most of Damien's work, I would say he achieved that, while also paying homage to the movies that clearly inspired the new thing. I'm here for it if this theory is true after all. Before we wrap up today's video, I'd like to ask you all to please subscribe to my gaming channel, GullGotha, where I'll be posting new gaming videos every week. Check that out so I can hit my goal of 1,000 subscribers before the end of the summer. Thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. What do you guys think about my Terrifier 3 opening scene theory? This turned into more of a first act theory, honestly. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all again for watching, make sure to subscribe, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.